Welcome back to the With Love series. We're so excited because I'm actually in LA now, so we're filming some things in person, and today we have a good friend of ours, Elizabeth April, coming through. I actually know about Elizabeth through Arielle. So Arielle knew about her work and then turned her on to me, and yeah, she is incredible. I'm going to read her bio real quickly. So Elizabeth April is a cosmic intuitive channeler who has the ability to go into other realms and dimensions in order to gain access to information through vibration and visuals. Elizabeth works with individuals who want to comprehend their past, present, and future. Along with being a certified life coach practitioner as well as a profoundly experimental psychic, Elizabeth is a highly inspirational speaker, taking the term life coach to the next level. Whether you are sitting in our audience, watching her YouTube channel, or getting an individual reading, the insights channeled through her will leave you feeling in tune with the limitless possibilities which exist within your reality. And both of us have had our own readings with her.
And incredible.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
No, she was super on point. I usually don't do a lot of psychic readings because I think, you have to be discerning when it comes to that. But Elizabeth was able to tap into things that I have never mentioned to anyone in my whole life. And I think it was the same for you, right?
Same, yeah. And it's really fascinating how she can literally pause, ask her questions, and come right back. She doesn't have to go into this deep trance.
Yeah, exactly.
And neither does the person they're receiving in, which is really cool.
Yeah, she's very tapped in. And she even channels another higher being who is a gray. So she's very tapped in, not just to here, but to the Galactic Federation and the astral realm. So I'm so excited that she's going to be here. She just has so much wisdom to share and is such a unique individual. Just incredible inside and out. So I'm so excited.
It's going to be a fun, full conversation.
I really do think it's so cool, though, that your dad had this spiritual knowledge and helped you facilitate it. That as a little girl, you weren't told that, oh, what you're seeing is imaginary. That he actually could support you and say, oh, tell me more. Like, what did you see? And wasn't he doing past life regressions on you as well?
For sure, especially the fact that he's Catholic, and we were raised Catholic, and then he's also an engineer. So like, you bring Catholic and engineer into the equation of spirituality, and it's just like, it's so many worlds together. So, but he was definitely the more spiritual one, whereas my mom was really freaked out when I was seeing ghosts and spirits and chakras and auras and things like that. It's like, oh, you're just watching too many scary movies, which kind of indoctrinated in me. It's like, oh, I guess that's what I've been doing. I guess it's just all an illusion. But in a way that also allowed me to shut things down so that I could live a normal life. And I'm appreciative of that. And I know a lot of people who have been waking up all at once, and it's very difficult for them to integrate these higher frequencies into their normal everyday life. And because I've kind of been aware from such a young age, I feel like I have a really good handle on being human and not having to push the spiritual agenda too much, and also going to the levels that I go to. So I was like born with extrasensory abilities. So obviously being an empath, I wasn't able to even go out to public restaurants because I would feel everyone's energy in the room, and I would have panic and anxiety attacks, and essentially I would actually be purging. So my parents thought that I had some sort of, like, I don't know if it was like a food reaction or whatever. I learned later on that it was literally just the energy of everyone, and I would have to run to the bathroom, and my dad knew the second that the blood ran from my face that I was something was going on.
But you're transmuting the energy.
Oh yeah, big time.
You were healing everyone.
Clairvoyant? Clairsentient? Are you hearing, seeing, or are you just feeling?
No, mostly as a kid it was the feelings. So the more of a physical empath of transmuting the energy, feeling everyone, feeling very overwhelmed, but then also a lot of seeing. So even when I was around 6, I went over to my friend's house and I said, oh, it's so nice that your grandpa's over. And she's like, my grandpa passed away 4 years ago. And I said, oh, well, he's in the living room. he was right over there, you know, and I described what he looked like and what he was wearing. I was like, he's very well dressed. And she's like, okay. You know, and that was difficult, I think, for my friends as well. And I always kind of felt like an outcast. It wasn't until I got older, like around the age of 10, when you really start to create an identity and an ego, and you're like, oh, I don't fit in. So how do I fit in? And I was very conscious of, you know, I observed the dynamics of elementary school, and I said, you know, how are people in my school most accepted? Oh, sports. Let's do that then. So I got heavily involved into sports and talk about going from the metaphysical to the physical, you know, and really diving into that. And then, you know, of course, years into being captain of teams and doing a lot of traveling and sports and all of that, and it was all great. And I had a lot of friends, and I felt very accepted. But around the age of 14, you know, a huge bout of depression hit me. And I thought to myself, there's got to be something more than this. And I always tend to find that people awaken through two different avenues. One is you have everything that society tells you that you need to have to be happy.
And you don't feel fulfilled, or
and you're still not happy. And then you're like, there's got to be something more than this, which honestly is a little bit more of a graceful way, to be honest, to awaken. And then the other end of the awakening is
life hits you.
You have nothing. You have nothing.
That's what happened to both of us. We've both been homeless, like with absolutely nothing, and had to rebuild our lives from zero. But it's when you look back, it's the best thing, even though it's so jarring and you think it's the worst thing.
Well, because you're finally open and receptive. Like, I was like, okay, I don't know anything.
Right?
Starting from ground zero.
You're so humbled when you go through that.
I give up.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you have everything, or like all the friends, and like family dynamics are good, and you know, and financially taken care of, like all the things. I mean, not overabundant, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is all an illusion. None of this actually makes me happy. And at 16, I thought to myself, either I'm crazy, like crazy, or I'm onto something, right? And how could I, as one person at 16, be the one who's onto something and the rest of the world be in an illusion? Like for me, it was like that. There's no way that that's the case. You know, but also for me, it's like, if this is all that there is, if all I have to do is go to school, go to more school, get into a bunch of debt, then work the rest of my life to, you know, pay off that debt and get a 9-to-5 job, then count me out. You know, I don't want anything to do with this. And I am so happy that it turned out that everyone else was crazy. And that I was actually onto something. And like, this is legit. Like, this is the real deal. But I had no one to turn to. And luckily, through that depression, through that questioning, through that searching of information, and going to psychologists and doctors, and, you know, and my high school teachers and my parents, and even sitting down with a priest to say, all right, you have the answers for me. What is it? What's the meaning of life? Why are we here? What's the whole point? Please tell me. There's something more than this physical, illusionary reality. And still, I was met with disappointing answers, you know, and blank stares. So it wasn't until, you know, my dad, luckily, he's like, you know what, you should try this thing called the past life regression. And I'm like, what's that?
At
he's
like what, 12?
At 16.
16.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was after about 2 years of depression and anxiety and questioning and trying to figure it all out and just being so lost.
Were your gifts still online at that time?
No, they were.
You kind of just shut them all out.
Yeah. So from about 10 to 16. I was just trying to fit in.
Yeah,
exactly.
Totally, yeah.
But then when I had all the things, right, and I conquered all the things that I wanted to do, I was still really depressed, you know, because I was missing that spiritual element. I was missing that aspect of my soul. So then at 16, you know, in an hour and a half, for this past life regression, changed my life, went into 5 different past lifetimes, all different ages, genders, you know, positions, but always in a position of receiving information and giving it to humanity. And I realized then that, okay, this is my mission. I don't know what information I'm supposed to receive, but this is my mission. And also, you know, 2 big concepts were opened up to me. One, reincarnation. Oh my God, this is not my only life. Oh my God, I'm not just 16. Oh my God, there's so much more out there to explore. It really opened up a can of worms for me. And then the second huge concept was time. Are you serious? At 16 years old, in an hour and a half, I can explore 5 entire past lifetimes in an hour and a half? So time is an illusion. Fantastic. Let's unpack that. what else can we explore with that?
Right.
You know, so it really opened me up to all these concepts, and finally I felt reprieve for the first time since I was a kid. You know, and even as a kid with those abilities, I still felt, you know, amiss and not fully fitting in. So my whole life has been a journey of awakening and ascension and figuring it all out. And around that age of 16, I was also told by, you know, I don't know, you know, imaginary friends or whatever back in that day, but now I realize that I was definitely being guided by a lot of Palladians and other beings. And I was told not to do any external research. So I mean, yeah, I had to read textbooks for school, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's about it. That was, you know, the extent of the research that I was doing. So anything related to aliens, even though back then that wasn't a huge concept for me, but spirituality and quantum physics, you know, don't do any external research. And now I understand, you know, that it's to keep the information coming through me as pure as possible, which is incredible because we're all receiving the same information, just in a different package.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, so instead of me saying, well, this guy said that and this guy, so why am I getting this? And having it being kind of diluted, it's like, no, this is what I'm receiving, take it or leave it.
Right.
You know, but it is what it is, right? So that's kind of been my journey. And then I guess after the past life regression at 16, I actually stole my dad's past life regression book, and I copied all of his notes on how to regress people, and I started regressing my friends at that age.
It's like your party trick.
It is, yeah. So in university, so at 18,
See who you really were.
should I be your friend, or you know?
When you were regressing people, and when you regressed too, did you only see human lives at this point?
It was all just human.
So the alien stuff hadn't really come.
Yeah, but it was
you
also
yet.
like intense, like shamanistic, like spiritual, you know, very like, I was receiving huge downloads of knowledge and wisdom, not really knowing how to apply that. And so that was at 16. 2 years later, at 18, I went away to university and I took the past life regression book, and that's how I made friends. I'm like, hey, do you want to see something cool? Have you ever thought that you've lived before, you know? And I mean, most of the people that I encountered were like, you know, not very aware. You know, they're like, we're in university, let's party, let's drink. Like they just, their minds just weren't there, which was fine. But yeah, and so at 18, one of the first things that I wanted to do when I got away from home was I wanted to explore a past lifetime that I had. And it was a past lifetime where I was a yogi in Burma, a man, and I could defy the laws of physics, like levitate and you know, like chop cement in half and all that crazy stuff, right? And so one of the things, so not only was I breatharian, and at the age of around 12 to 14, I told my parents that I didn't need food to exist. And they thought that I was anorexic or bulimic, and they thought that I had a body image issue, which wasn't the case at all. I just truly knew that we did not need food and we could live off of our breath. Of course, now I really love food and appreciate it, but it's coming from that past lifetime in Burma. And one of the things that I practiced was this practice called Vipassana, which was a silent meditation practice. So when I re-experienced that lifetime, when I was silently meditating and going within and observing all the sensations objectively in this state of equanimity, I said, I want to do this again. And I found out that Vipassana is actually a worldwide known technique. And you can go off for 10 days in the silent sit and go do this. So the first thing I wanted to do when I, you know, escaped home after high school was go to Vipassana. So I did, and of course on the second night, in the middle of this, you know, in the middle of the woods, basically, in the middle of nowhere, in this silent retreat center, perfect place to get abducted. And on the second night of this silent meditation retreat, I got abducted by interdimensional beings, very consciously, like typically they give you the, you know, the benefit of the doubt, and they just freaking, you know, wipe your memory. This was not the case. I realized that my contracts were to be extremely vividly aware of the fact that everything that happened. And so I got abducted on the second night of silent meditation retreat. Perfect place to abduct someone because they can't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, who do I tell someone? Do I leave? Like, what do I do? Are they going to come back?
So you were conscious the whole time?
Oh, the whole, like, to the point where, like, I woke up, they were above me, they sprayed something in my face so that I was basically paralyzed. I thought that they muted my, I thought that they they muted my ears,
Yeah.
but later I realized they muted my vocal cords because I thought I was yelling, you know what I mean, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
It was because they muted this. I saw them pulling me from my bed. I sleep naked, so it was like literally I saw my body and I saw like one pink sock that I had on my foot, because there was one of them that was on my left foot, one of them that was on my left arm, and one of them that was on my right arm, and they were literally like pulling me from my bed, and my right leg was dangling, and I remember looking at my right foot saying, oh, I have one pink sock on, okay, what happened to the other pink sock? Like I just remember thinking that, and they pulled me into the hallway, and then I don't really, the only part that I don't remember is how they beamed me up to their ship and how I got back down.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know why, I don't know, maybe it was like an instant thing, but...
What kind of beings were they? Were you able to recognize at that point?
Yeah.
Like, did they look like humans, or was it very...
No, they were very weird looking. Very tall, probably about 7 or 8 feet tall,
Oh, wow.
very pale. Like, we would consider them the tall whites, but that's also saying, like, you're a human. Like, it's a very, like, umbrella term for a being. So I don't really know what their species name is, but I call them the tall whites. There was not a pleasant abduction. This is the only experience with interdimensionals that I've had that was unpleasant. And I also realized that I needed to experience a fear-based abduction, in order to have compassion for all the other humans on the planet who are experiencing fear-based abductions, because I am so positive and so optimistic about aliens that people are like, yo, like it's not right what they're doing, it's violating. I'm like, I feel what you feel, but also you don't have to perceive it that way, right? So I mean, it was very fear-based. They did put a chip in my ear. The only piece
And you were conscious for the chip going in your ear and everything?
Oh my God, like I was sitting in this chair, there was...
On the ship?
On the ship. There was 7 of these tall white beings in front of me. I could see everything, but I felt so much fear. And even at the time, I'm like, this isn't my own fear. Later on, I realized from an ex-military guy who worked with the tall whites that they have this ability to release a chemical compound in the human brain to actually inject cortisol, which creates this fear chemical, right? So I'm like,
why would they want to do that?
To basically stunt you so that you don't have the free will or the power to go up against them.
Okay.
It's like a paralyzing. It's so, you have so much fear that it paralyzes you.
You think that they'd want to actually make you feel pleasant, so you're like, oh, hey guys, like, and you'd be a little docile in that way.
Typically the tall whites are not known as a benevolent, more so nefarious, right? So anyway, so I saw the machine going into my ear. I mean, I felt them watching me. At that point, I was doing astral traveling, remote viewing, telepathy, I mean, you name it. Up until that abduction experience, I was full online with all my psychic abilities again. I was doing past life regressions for others. I would stub my toe and get thrown into a past lifetime at that time. Like, I was very open. And after that, so I spent the rest of the 10 days at Vipassana. I did what I needed to do to just, quiet my mind about that, to just go through the rest of the sit. But then it was afterwards where I felt very fearful of leaving my body. I felt like they were watching me, that maybe they could come into my, I wasn't sure.
Well, especially if they put a chip in you. You're like, what's
they
this?
Were tracking
this is a tracking device. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I felt them. I felt them in the room, at work, at school, like I felt them, like they were around. And then I went to go see a psychic, and she confirmed that I didn't even have to tell her. And she's like, "Oh, you have something in your ear," and I'm like, yeah. I even went to a doctor after. I'm like, "Can you just look in my ear? Like, can you just
X-ray anything?"
Yeah. She's like, "I don't see anything." The doctor didn't see anything, but of course the psychic medical medium or whatever. She's like, "Oh yeah, you've got a chip in your ear, and they're tracking you, and it's these beings and whatever."
Does it ever tingle or have sensations?
I have drainage issues in my right ear. So the psychic medium was able to, she said, deactivate it. And she said it was just made up of organic material. It was intelligent, but it was made up of organic material, so it would just kind of decompose. But yeah, I've definitely had right ear issues. After that, though, after the whole fear-based experience, I started waking up to aliens. I'm like, oh my God, so they're here. Why are they here? Right?
Were they even on your radar before? That was.
I mean, if you asked me before that, I mean, once again, I was astral traveling, telepathy. I mean, you name it, I was doing it. But past life regression, all of that. But if you asked me if I believed in aliens or other life, I'd say for sure there's got to be something out there. But
but you just didn't consciously know.
Why would they bother with us?
Yeah.
Like we were just this lowly third dimension species among trillions of terrestrial planets out there in the universe. There's no way that they would even care. And that really started my hunt for knowledge, right? Of like, okay, why us? Why here? Why now? Why are we so important? And it was after that when I started to get contacted by Palladian beings, the Galactic Federation I was introduced to. They told me all about these dinosaur beings, like the reptilians, and I mean, we just went into it. So ever since then, I mean, I've still been doing past life regressions, which I think is really important in the soul healing for people, but I've also been going off life, or off planet, into other lifetimes, past and future, and cosmically, to really understand the full experience of your soul, you know? So as far as like, what do you call yourself? What do you do? It's like, I don't know. I'm not just a psychic. I'm not just a medium. I'm not just a transcendental channeler. Like, I don't even know what to call myself. Recently, the label that really resonates with me is paradigm shifter. Because that's just what I feel like I'm here to do. But like, I never want to pigeonhole. I'm not just the alien girl. You know what I mean? Like, so it's been kind of difficult for me to come from a place where I'm just in a quantum place of like, every day it's something different. And then for people who are like, but how do we define you? You know what I mean? So it's been difficult for me to kind of, once again, take this knowledge and information and fit it into the confines and limitations of this reality. But I think that it's getting easier to just come out as exactly who I am without the labels, and people be like, I see you. And that feels really nice.
So at what point did you connect with the Greys? Like, at what point were you like, oh wait, I'm a Grey? Like, that must have been so jarring for you, especially because there's so much out there that Greys are evil, Greys are bad.
But once again, I didn't do any external research. Like, I was told at 16. I had no idea what was good, what was bad, until they told me about the dinosaur beings who drink blood and all that stuff, which are obviously the reps. But it was about 2 weeks after the chip was deactivated when I started having vivid flashbacks to myself as an 8-foot tall Grey being on board this really dimly lit ship. Like, I would literally be walking down completely sober, because people ask me that all the time. They're like, what were you on? I'm like, I was sober. Like, I was going to university class, walking down the hall to my classroom, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm like 8 feet tall as a male Palladian, or as a male Grey, walking down the hall. And I'm like, is anyone else here with me? Like, what's going on? You know? And so that was, so I started having those flashbacks, just like having a past life flashback that I was very used to. And I'm like, oh, this must be a past lifetime. So instantly I recognized it as a past life. It was just a Grey past life, you know, which was really a crazy experience for me. And that's when I started to really unpack, oh, now that I really have a grip and a handle on who I was on this planet in the past, who was I off this planet? And that's when I was really introduced to my Grey self as an ambassador, who has been one of my most prominent parallel selves that I've really come in contact with, because he, being me, just has so much knowledge and information for humanity. Like, I was working with the Galactic Federation and Planet Earth before Planet Earth even had humans on it. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're finally here. We're finally doing it. We planned this for millions of years, and we're finally doing it. So, so that's when I started to really kind of come into that frequency. But like you mentioned, there's so many negative things about Greys, and I'm like, oh no, like, that's who I am. It's like,
but you're shifting that now.
I'm shifting that, and that's not also, like, once again, just like I don't identify with the label psychic. It's not like I'm a Grey ambassador. It's like, no, I'm Elizabeth. This is who I am now. You know, which is an accumulation of everything before, and that's what I help other people experience as well. Is who are you really beyond just this container, but also, don't get attached to who you used to be, and realize that you are everything in this now moment. So, you know, it's a balance. It's a lot, but it's a balance.
Can you go back to talking about the Galactic Federation?
I was just going to say, what is it?
What do they do? Why do they care about us?
For sure.
Are they just hanging out above Earth? Like, where are they? What are they doing? Why do they care about us?
So the easiest way to explain the Galactic Federation is basically like a government system for the universe. When I first learned about them back in 2010, 2011, I was really disappointed, because I was studying global political economy in university, so global politics was my thing. And understanding how corrupt the whole system was my thing, right? And so then to understand, oh my God, we have these interdimensional beings who have all this highly advanced technology and spirituality and understanding of the world, and we still need a system.
Yeah.
We still need a government structure. Like,
Right.
what?
Well, there's so many different beings, you know? Like, how could you... And everyone has their own agenda, I assume.
And so that's what they basically explain. Like, that we do live in a binary universe. We've got the light, we've got the dark. And essentially, you know, how they explained it is there's a nefarious agenda with, say, the lower vibrational beings in the universe, and all they want is more power, more control. And so there needs to be an opposing force that just neutralizes, not takes over the dark, but just makes sure that everyone is in divine harmony, right? So that's basically what their main mission is just to create unity in the universe between both of the binary sides. So they abide by the laws, the universal truth laws, right? The laws of the universe. And there are many nefarious or lower vibrational beings that do not abide by these laws. So they just make sure that everyone's, you know, abiding by the law of non-intervention and those kind of things, so that no one's stepping over each other. So they're basically just like a giant UN, a giant government structure for the universe. And any being, any species in the entire universe who believes in oneness and unity and balance is going to be a part of the Galactic Federation. So you don't have to be a crazy high vibrational love and light being to be a part of the GFL, just to believe in fairness and oneness and equality for everyone. You know, so they have been around planet Earth since the beginning. Typically, they have a giant mothership that hangs out right outside of Earth's atmosphere, which is obviously cloaked. And that's typically where I astral travel to, mostly to receive information and downloads for humanity as a whole. And they give, and there's many different councils that deal with many different aspects of humanity and of planet Earth. And of course, they've got a mission control set up in every galaxy, in every solar system, all across, you know, the universe. So it's really expansive. You know, it's like incomprehensible almost, you know, how expansive it is. So that's who I mainly talk to, because they mostly have the majority of the information, you know, at a fuller perspective.
Best interest at heart, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And would you say that they're incredibly compassionate, loving beings?
You know, it really, so they have to be pretty neutral. There's a lot of beings who work there who are very much more divine masculine, logical, analytical, but they have, once again, the universal laws, oneness, unity, all in mind. And for planet Earth, because we have been so corrupted and so manipulated and controlled, they're also making sure that everyone's abiding by the same laws. So they can be very kind of structured in that way. And then there's also other beings who are overly compassionate and loving and just want the best for everyone and have that more emotional approach. But some people interpret the Galactic Federation as a negative, just because there are beings who are more logical and analytical and who don't necessarily have all of the love and the compassion and the emotions that we perceive, that we feel like we need. It's not necessary up there, you know what I mean? So that's a big issue that a lot of cosmic starseeds have had coming to this planet, being a human being, is dealing with the overwhelming sense of emotions and reactions and fight or flight from moment to moment.
Would you say that anyone could communicate with the Galactic Federation? Or
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Anyone. So the way that they explained it, just recently actually, is that all of our cosmic family members are just fractals of our own soul, right? So even the Galactic Federation, we're probably connected with many species who are a part of the Galactic Federation, because we've also been those species before. They're just fractals of us. So upon connecting inward, upon connecting with ourselves at a deeper level, we start connecting to all of our cosmic ancestors and all of our cosmic family members, and they're most likely all working for the Galactic Federation, because we are all here for the best interest of all involved, and we signed up and volunteered to be here for that. So we can all connect and
can we talk about that for a quick second? About the call that went out, and then we volunteered to come here.
Absolutely.
I think many people are like, wait, what? I signed up for this?
And how many volunteers?
Oh, yes.
Is that 144,000? Is that accurate, or what's going on?
Yeah, so I was told back when I first got introduced to the Galactic Federation, they told me about this concept of 144,000 souls volunteering to be here to bring us into this ascension. So I looked up ascension and 144,000 and biblical this, biblical that, Bible this, Bible that. I'm like, why are you teaching me about the Bible? You know what I mean? I didn't understand, but now I realize that there's so many elements of truth in religion that are true, but everything else has kind of been distorted. So anyway, so basically what they told me is that there are these souls who are more so like, let's call them ambassadors coming to the planet, who are supposed to raise the vibration. I believe that there are way more volunteers, cosmic souls, starseeds, whatever you want to call them, who are volunteering to come to this planet. Way more than 144,000. But there's certain, like, I don't know if they're like crystalline children or ambassadors or whatever, but certain souls. And once we have that many souls on the planet, that's when we're going to move into 5D fully, but we need more help, so we have even more than just the 144,000, but there's something in particular about this 144,000 that are here. And last time I checked into the number was probably 4 months ago. I want to say like maybe around March or April. And it was 126,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're getting
close.
there. We're getting there. And they just keep being born. Like these children. So they don't even have to be saying or doing anything
Their energy.
to anchor in the frequencies.
Yeah,
That's it. That's all it is. It's just their frequency. So, so that number is actually, that's a thing. But that's not the only number that's out there, you know? And let's not get caught up in numbers either, right?
Yeah.
So,
just turn on, everyone. Turn on. Light up. Let's go.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
I do
Get
get
activated.
caught up in numbers, but in a good way.
You are the number.
Numbers calm me down.
Yeah,
So I'm like, oh, cool, 144. But I always kind of thought of it as like, there's 144 like light warriors that are like here to like fight the battle in a way, and then there's just a ton more that are literally just here just to live, just to again anchor in the codes. But that's always, I was like, it can't just be 140. It's gotta be more, right?
Yeah, it is.
And so, it's like what you're saying, like with the ambassadors, there's like probably 144 that are like, you know, have a history of being actual warriors in other places or whatever.
Or maybe those are the ones who are speaking up, who are implanted into all of the different facets of society, who are changing the system, who are taking that action. And then, like you mentioned, so many others are here. Some are here just for the show. They're like, all right, I chose to be here just to watch things. Like,
what's exactly.
Going on. That's crazy. And that also leaves, you know, individuals a little bit directionless as well. So there's something that, like, I have a lot of terms, but there's something that I term lost soul syndrome. And especially within the millennial Gen Z generations, it's like everything's provided for them. But they're really depressed and they're really anxious and they don't know why they're here and they don't know what their purpose is and they're chilling, you know, in their parents' basement at 28, you know, or whatever. And so I have so much compassion for those individuals because I'm like, you volunteered to be here, but this isn't really what you signed up for. Like, they're just waiting for the time when things change to be activated.
Got it.
So they're just waiting and waiting and waiting, and they just feel like, well, I don't resonate with this or this or this or this. So I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to be here, you know? And so we have to have compassion for those generations as well who are given everything, but the missing piece is the spirituality. And once they realize, oh my goodness, there is a world out there, just like I realized at 16, that really just allowed me to fully live my life and not have this fear of, is this all that there is? Because if there is, I will be depressed. You know what I mean? So that was really nice. Yeah.
I don't understand, why is there a wait list to come to planet Earth?
There isn't.
There isn't.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I never believed that. I was like, that doesn't make sense.
There's a lot of training that happens on the Galactic Federation ships.
Yeah.
Some souls have not been trained, and some souls have been trained, but I take a look at everyone's...
Hold on, the airplane.
So I do a lot of like exploration of what was your very last lifetime before coming to this planet, right? So that really tells me a lot about what were your contracts, what were your blueprints, what did you sign up for, and so a lot of them, I call it Earth School. They get trained for being here, and some of them don't. Some of them are like, we need you now, and they just come in, and that's a little bit more difficult to navigate. And so there's souls who are coming to the planet who have never been to this planet. They're finding a hard time, you know, with direction, and then there's souls, you know, probably like the three of us who have been here since ancient Atlantis, Nymeria, who are like, we're in it for the long haul, like, let's go through it. And I can always tell instantly on how grounded someone is, or how like aloof and out of body. And you guys are like tapped in, but you're grounded and you're human, and you're very you're very connected to the nuances. You know what I mean? And I feel the same way. Like,
it takes a lot of work to be grounded.
It takes a lot of work to be here and be human.
But then you have to you have to realize that, like, I came here for a human experience. That was like a big epiphany I had, where I was like, why am I up in the psychic realm all the time? What about being human, like enjoying food or exactly, like
crystals,
watching my period pieces, like going to the beach, like you know, doing human things, because you know, I feel that this is a lot of light warriors, light workers, last lifetimes too. I know, they're like, we're done after this.
We're not coming back. Got other places to visit.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just really interesting. So as far as like a wait list, it's like at the beginning it was hard pressed to find any soul who wanted, like, any being up there who wanted. They're like,
no way,
like
to Earth in general, or for this time.
To Earth in general.
So
to Earth in general, because it's just so dense. They're like,
we can't fly here.
Well, but wasn't it a fifth dimension during the time of Atlantis and Lemuria?
It was a higher frequency. So what they told me a long time ago, they taught me a little bit about astrophysics. Obviously, I don't do any of that research, so I'm not totally sure. But what they told me is that there's so our solar system is moving, right? Everything in the universe is constantly moving. So as our solar system moves throughout the universe and pushed and pulled, our planet is moving throughout the universe. And so there's a center point in the universe. So there's a center of the universe. And the center of the universe is where all light and all source is held, right? God, frequency, whatever, universal source is right there. So what they told me is that on our trajectory, when we were during ancient Atlantis and Lemuria, we were at this point where we were the closest to the center of the universe. Therefore, we had the highest connection to the vibration of pure oneness. And what's happened is, you know, during the dark ages, we got to the farthest point here. They told me that 2012 we got to this midpoint, and that's when everything started changing. That's when we started this new paradigm. It's like we started this brand new cycle. I think it's probably 26,000 year cycles for every quarter or whatever. That's kind of, I don't know. But yeah, and so 2012 kind of marked this brand new cycle, this end and beginning, and now we're moving closer and closer and closer. And that's a little bit disappointing when you think about it, right? Because in a physics way, it's like, yeah, of course everything's moving. Oh yeah, of course, if we're closer to the center of the universe and center to that oneness, you know, we're going to have more of that experience of oneness. But that also means then that there's going to be a point in time where we move away from it again, right? But thus is the whole binary experience of this reality, and this entire universe is light and dark, you know? So it's interesting, just something to think about.
And speaking of the universe, I wanted to get what do you think the moon is? Because a lot of people have talked to me recently that they think the moon is a satellite or that it's hollow. And what are messages you've gotten about the moon?
For sure. So I experienced this during my first Galactic Federation meeting. It was back in 2011. It was December 21st, 2011, right before 2012. And I was greeted by a Palladian being in my living room. And he said that there's this meeting that I have to attend, and it's going to be at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which was the time zone that I was in. And he said that I have to be awake for it and in meditation. So, you know, I woke up at 1, drank a bunch of coffee, and I was meditating until 2 a.m. And boom, there he was. And he said, follow me, not physically, but astrally. And I was astral traveling, no problem at that time. So I got out of my body, I followed him, and believe it or not, we went to the moon. I'm like, what are we doing on the moon? And we weren't on the moon, we were in the moon. And we went right through the moon, and we went inside the middle of the moon. I'm like, what? The moon is hollow? And there's this huge room, and that's where the first ever Galactic Federation meeting was held, is inside the moon. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so I believe that the moon is originally, so it's really interesting. A little bit of history that I've channeled on the moon, but I you know, there's still gaps in the story, is originally it was actually a device to help control the planet and control the matrix system. And so the moon is a satellite. It's actually made out of metal. And so the moon was originally connected to Saturn, I believe. And so there's a lot of nefarious stuff going on around Saturn. And so there was, like, basically what they told me is that there was activations that were happening, vibrational frequencies from Saturn that were hitting the moon and then being reflected to planet Earth to lower the vibration, to kind of have a control over the prison system. A long, long time ago, I don't know when, the moon was then taken over by the Galactic Federation, and then they started emitting higher vibrational frequencies to the planet. And that's why you might hear positive and negative things about the moon and what it can do and what it doesn't do or what have you, but it's been kind of activated and deactivated and changed and transmuted, and now I believe that it is in full function of the Galactic Federation, or at least full observation of the Galactic Federation. And I do believe that the dark side of the moon, which is crazy that people don't question the fact that the moon doesn't circulate. I mean, like, what? The moon doesn't turn, but every other planet in the entire universe turns, but the moon doesn't. It's like, that's my, like, wake up, you know what I mean? But anyway, so, you know, the whole dark side of the moon is completely populated by cities and beings and whatever. But yeah, so that's my understanding of the moon. But once again, I don't do any external research. I don't know what other people are saying about it. It's just, I know what I've seen and what I've experienced.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For those that are watching, I feel like they're wondering, okay, how do I know if I'm one of the ones that volunteered? Do you have tools that you use or resources for individuals to kind of tap in, or questions that they can start asking themselves to figure out if they're a volunteer?
Or are all star beings volunteers?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's synonymous, right? So if you're a starseed or you're a cosmic soul and you're on this planet, you volunteered to be a human being because you were not a human before this, right?
Right.
And then there's souls I call them human souls, who were evolving from first dimension to second dimension to third dimension, and they just naturally came here to learn third dimension lessons, and they're just here to be a human. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So I mean, if you're here, if you're watching this,
then you probably
you're
are.
a volunteer. But other things like, do you feel like you've lived other lifetimes? Do you feel like you're here for a mission? Do you feel like you don't fit in? Do you feel like you feel different? Like, I mean, do you ever look up at the stars and think, where's my home? You know? Yeah, like, take me away, beat me up. You're a starseed, right? So I mean, I tell everyone on my channel, even the haters, even the trolls, I'm like, you're here, you're trolling my channel for a reason.
Because you're so curious.
Because you're a starseed, wake up,
That's
you know?
true.
So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of us, we're all waking up at this time, and we're finding the right resources to help us along our journey, which is so beautiful that I get these messages every day of like, oh my goodness, like, you validate everything that I've ever been thinking. And for me, I always turn it back to my 16-year-old self thinking, I wish I had that one person to validate everything that I've ever been thinking, because I thought I was batshit, you know, and it's so nice that I can now be that resource for people. But I also need to make sure people know that everything that I can do, everything that I know, you can do as well. You know as well. You have that power within you, and that's the most beautiful thing. So when people are like, "Oh my God, you're amazing," or "You're so incredible," and I always message back and I say, "You're just a mere reflection of me. If you think that I'm all this, you are that too, because here you are." Right? So it's always this constant reminder of reflection.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
So how does one start? Where's ground zero? Meditation? Breath work? Reading?
Past life regressions.
Past life? Is that...
Astrology, numerology.
I mean, these are all
like,
just
how do
tools.
I communicate?
Yeah, exactly.
How do I start?
These are all just tools, right? I mean, I suggest and recommend that if you're beginning on your journey and path, try everything. Try a little bit of everything. Don't ever get stuck in one modality. If you do, you're pigeonholing yourself, and you're not allowing yourself to be open to everything. So try everything once. If it doesn't resonate with you, then move on. You know? So try the tools, but the number one thing, the only thing that ever exists is listening. You have to listen. You have to listen to your soul. Your soul already knows all the answers. Your consciousness already has all the information for you. So if you're like, oh, this person, oh, this teacher, oh, this tarot card deck, oh, this, you know, you're disempowering yourself before you even begin to understand the power that you have within yourself. The only thing that ever exists is you and your own consciousness, which is connected to the infinite oneness of everything. So utilize the tools, explore and experience the modalities, but never forget that it always comes down to you having the ultimate knowledge and access to all of the resources without anything in the physical reality. And I think people along their journey, they get so excited about whatever they're into that they always forget that they always had it to begin with.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's actively carving out time to just sit and listen.
Yep,
Ask
and that
your
could be
soul
through.
questions.
It could be through meditation. It could be through art. It could be through dance. It could be through just checking in with yourself. Hey, Elizabeth, how are you today?
Yeah.
You know, just like you check in with your plants. Hey, buddy, what's going on? You know,
Yeah.
like checking and just listening, just providing that space. You know, even I have a hard time carving out that time, and I tend to find, instead of sitting down for a 2-hour meditation, you know, and saying, oh, I can't do it today. I can't do it today. I can't do it today. You know. It's like I'll just be like doing the dishes and say, "Hey, how are you today? Are you okay? What do you need? How can I support you?"
Was it you that was talking about the bathroom?
Me?
No.
Oh.
Everyone goes to the bathroom. We
wait,
go to the
that was
bathroom all
that
day
was Brenda.
long.
That was
So
Brenda.
you're gonna sit on the toilet. I don't care
Yeah,
who you
yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So use that time to be like, "Hi,
But
how are you?"
What
I'm here.
I've actually
Just a check-in.
found, what I've found with people that I talk to, especially when I've done numerology readings, it's that they're getting the information, but they don't trust it. So I think that is the hardest thing for most humans that I've encountered. It's just like, even, you know, with numerology, astrology, and even what you do, you've said, like, I'm reminding you of who you are. These are tools. And, you know, aside from seeking outside, like, you know, you could have a reading with you and you can confirm things, or you can look into like a tarot deck, whatever it is. How would you go about giving people, like, how do you trust yourself? How do you learn that?
So the easiest way that I can put it for people is like understanding, it's very similar to understanding what foods are causing a reaction in your body. What do you have to do to find the food that's giving you a reaction is you need to cut out all the other foods. What do you need to do to start trusting yourself? You need to cut yourself off from everything that is making you disempower or doubt. So it's always just you.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking like, oh, I think I'm getting the information, but I'm not sure, but maybe this person can validate, or maybe I can look elsewhere, cut it all off and just be with yourself. The longer that you are just with yourself, the more confident that you're going to be. And then once you start trusting yourself, your reality will give you the validation that you can trust yourself more. It's kind of like saying, I'll love myself once I lose that 10 pounds. Well, then you're never going to lose the 10 pounds because you're putting a condition on it. If you're like, I trust myself because I fucking love myself, and that's it, then all of a sudden, synchronicities, numerology, 111 right now, you know, it's all coming together. And then you're going to get the validation of trust. But you have to do the work of trusting yourself first before you get the validation. And that requires cutting off anything and everything that is not you.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Also, I think you and I talked about this, where sometimes when I'm unsure about the information I'm getting, or I feel like it's crickets, I'll ask, like, please send me a big sign, like spirit guides, angels, ancestors, whoever is here.
Make it
like,
obvious.
Send me the most obvious sign, like smack me in the face with it. I need this to be like very sobering, you know? And oftentimes, like, I'll have a bunch of things happen when I'm like, you know, I'll pray for and ask for it regularly till it comes.
And the other thing too, though, is you can ask all you want and that information will come to you. And even just saying the words, I am ready, you know, is really empowering and powerful. So watch out when you do say it. But also if you're saying, give me a sign, and then you're not listening. So it's the listening. It always comes down to the listening.
So
right?
true,
Even listening to yourself, listening to your thoughts, listening to your soul, listening to your reality, right? The information is always accessible and there for you. But if you're not listening and paying attention, and you're looking over here, but it's actually right here,
exactly.
You know, so it doesn't really do you any good of asking, because even the asking itself can be disempowering. If you start listening first and trusting within, then everything will come together for you.
Right? I'd say that was the biggest thing with my arm injuries. I'm used to being 5 steps ahead at all time, constantly thinking, whereas suddenly I couldn't, and so I'm like, oh, I am washing the dish right now. That is all I'm doing. But it caused me to be present in the action instead of letting my mind run on 5 million things. And then of course I'm not hearing anything, seeing anything, feeling better, because I'm not even here. I'm 10 other places, you know.
Yeah, totally.
So,
Cool.
I also found that taking nature walks, like, you know, I'll set like intentions for the day, and if like when I was trying to think of should I come to LA, and I was very on the fence. I was like, I do not want to come here, and I was like, but I feel like I need to. And I would say, okay, I'm ready for signs because I'm not getting clarity on this. And then I always leave my phone at home and I'll go on a long nature walk. That way there's nothing messing with my vibration. I'm totally alone in nature. And that's when I kept getting like signs. And I come back, and right after that there'd be like texts on my phone like, hey, this is happening in LA, around the dates I was thinking of going.
Yeah.
So it's like really about creating that space too.
Yeah, getting back into 0 point, and nature will always do that for you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to touch base on, you talked about like lower vibrations and different frequencies. There's a lot of talk in the spiritual community about third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension.
Yeah.
What
What is
do-
that?
yeah, what does any of
What
that
does 3
mean?
5
Like,
feet? How do we
where
get
is
there?
Earth? Where is the Galactic Federation? Are we all existing in the same dimension right now? Like, what's the deal?
So it can be quite confusing because there are many different dimensions or energetic densities that are coexisting simultaneously. So we could go super quantum, but I wanted to keep it really simple. So all a dimension is an energetic density, right? So right now our physical body is like, this is the third dimension density.
Yeah.
So the way that the atoms are playing together is the density of that atomic state. So you can have an 8th dimensional being out there in the universe that still has a physical body, but their physical body doesn't function the same way our physical body does. So maybe their physical body doesn't need to eat. Maybe their physical body doesn't need to, excrete. Maybe their physical body can walk through a wall because it's less dense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's closer to the realm of energy and soul than it is to the realm of the physical. So it's less dependent on the physical. So I have a really good example with like a table, right? So if you perceive a table, if you look at a table in your room and you're like, okay, so the table is existing as a solid, dense object. That is the third dimension. You are understanding and perceiving that table as the third dimension. As we start to raise our vibration, we start to perceive this density, this dimension in a different way. All of a sudden, you start questioning the table. Are you a table?
Yeah.
Why do you exist? What's the purpose of your existence? That's the fourth dimension density. That's where you start to question things, right? So a lot of we can talk about the densities in a variety of different ways, but let's talk about it with perception, right?
Yeah.
And how we can raise our vibration and understand and hop into a new density with a new perception. So technically on this planet, it's kind of weird because we can hop into a new dimension, but still exist as a physical third dimension being. So it kind of gets weird and confusing. But in the third dimension, the table exists just as is, as an atomic state, right? The physical solid table. When you start questioning the table, maybe you create a conspiracy theory around the table, that's the fourth dimension density, right? Then all of a sudden, you start to realize that, you know what? This table isn't even solid altogether. This table is made up of a bunch of atoms that are all moving, and those atoms themselves are actually just empty space. So this table is an illusion. And when we're looking at it, we're perceiving it as solid, but it's not solid at all. That's when you get into the fifth dimension frequency. And the fifth dimension, the way that I understand it and like to explain it is, it's not just all light and all love and all butterflies and all rainbows. It's the ability to understand the different densities below the fifth dimension. It's the ability to question the third dimension frequency. It's the ability to dive into the darkness and the depths of this reality as well as the light. It's the ability to see both binary polarity ends objectively, right? So the fifth dimension is just being above this frequency. It's just being above this matrix. You're still in it. You still have to eat and answer that email and exist and make money and what have you. But your perception is different. It's elevated.
It's more
you
detached.
appreciate it's more detached, but it's also more connected, right? Detached from the things that don't actually matter and connected to the things that do matter.
Yeah.
You know, the truth of energy and vibration. Anything that emits a frequency is the truth, right? But the table, that is just a table, objectively, is an illusion, right? It could exist, it doesn't exist, it's wave state, it's particle state, what is it?
Right.
You know, it's everything all at once. The fifth dimension is a quantum place of superposition. Okay, so time is simultaneous. And when you start to get into the fifth dimension frequency, you start to understand that the past, the present, and the future are all simultaneously coexisting right here, right now, at this time, right? So 5D is not necessarily all of a sudden the entire reality around us changes and shifts. It's more or less the fact that your perception on the reality around you changes and shifts, which is this reality. Your perception is this reality. And when you can control and get a handle on your perception and the way that you're interacting and engaging with the reality around you, that's when your entire life changes. But you have to make that energetic vibrational change and shift from within first and foremost, and then things like your job or your financial dynamics or your relationship will change then, you know? So I think for a lot of people, it's like 5D is such an abstract concept, and I understand that it's difficult to grasp, but it really just is more appreciation and connection to the oneness that is all in this reality, you know?
It's more unity consciousness as opposed to separation.
Polarity consciousness, absolutely, absolutely. So hopefully that kind of gives people a little, food for thought and things to kind of just, we talked about a lot of topics, so I'm sure that, people's minds are spinning, but in a beautiful way.
Yeah, and Elizabeth talks about all of this on her channel. There are videos on so many topics, like different types of starseeds and aliens and 5D, 3D,
purpose, mission,
channelings, Galactic Federation. There's a lot. There's so much. You're just such a wealth of knowledge. There's just so much to dive into.
Well, once again, I don't try and limit myself to just one field.
Right.
And sometimes I get really fired up about a topic, and I'm like, man, I could literally just be an expert in this one thing. And then I would be doing myself a disservice, because I'm supposed to be here for a little bit of everything. Like, I want to weave the pieces of the puzzle for people together, the way that I had those aha moments, and it made sense to me, and finally I saw the fuller picture of this reality rather than just one aspect. So that's what I feel like I'm here for, is just to remind people of what they already know.
Yeah, and I feel that you're channeling what is most needed in that moment. And I think that's why you cover so many different topics, is that you're so tapped into the collective and what they need, that the information you're delivering is in the exact time. Right.
All of your comments will be like, this is exactly what I was thinking about. And this video is exactly what I was just talking about. It's
exactly.
So
it makes sense.
I think it's a really incredible testament to how rapidly we're moving, progressing, changing, and growing as a collective, that every single time I tap in and ask, what does humanity need to know? It's always different, So that's a pretty good indication that, we're rapidly ascending and people are hungry for more. And that's very exciting.
What a fun time to be alive.
It's pretty crazy, but
It's a wild ride.
Yeah.
So what's next? What are you working on?
So many things. Right now, many things, but I did channel a book, like 40,000 words in 4 days, which is amazing. So
I love reading.
So I'm planning on releasing that at the beginning of 2021. So that's like huge that I'm working on right now. But I've got an online masterclass called the Shift Masterclass, taking people from the 3rd dimension density to the 5th dimension. So for people who feel stuck in 3D and stuck in their emotions and stuck in the old patterns and programming, that's what the course is for. And then mostly, I'm really just putting out content. So if people are interested in, and they resonate with the information that I brought through today, it's just ElizabethApril.com and Elizabeth April on Google. You'll find all my social medias there. And I also have a YouTube page, and I have a YouTube membership page as well. So if people want to go deeper, and they're like, oh, this content is great, but I want more, then they can, sign up for the membership, which is just $10 a month. And that's kind of just producing content is really what I'm gearing up for, and
I love it.
And it's just putting out so much. So
you have your new session starting on Tuesday, I believe. I signed us up for it, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, the channel? Yes. Oh, thank you.
Is that like 3 p.m. I think? Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So every
We're
month,
in the Zoom.
Yeah.
every month now, I do this just for myself, and I'm like, why not bring people into this?
Yeah.
So I'm doing a Galactic Federation channel every single month, once a month on the 11th.
Live.
Live.
Yeah.
And instead of just channeling the Galactic Federation Palladian Security Council, which is usually where I get all my information for humanity, I'm literally just opening up the doors to anyone that wants to step through from the GFL, whether it be a Lyran or a Blue Avian, or we'll just see who they are, what their name is, what messages they have. I even love like asking them like, what do you do for the Galactic Federation? Like, what's your day-to-day look like? What's your role? What's your position? Because I'm just very curious about like, what do you eat? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, how do you exist? So that'll be really fun, and that's just $11 once a month, and I'm very excited to bring people into that because I do that myself anyway. So I'm like, why not just open that up? So
I'm sure people will want to witness that live.
Yeah, makes
for
total
sure.
sense.
That'll be fun. I don't even know what to expect because I just channel it, right? So I always surprise myself. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I'm
Like the floodgates will open.
I'm just an objective observer, and I feel like we're bringing in a lot of the alumni and the council members from the Galactic Federation and starseeds into the group as well, which is also going to raise the frequency and the vibration to bring in exactly what those people need to know. So I'm very exciid. So lots of things going on, but there's a wealth of information out there and tons of free content. So
much. I'm trying to get through it.
So much. But it's good. Yeah. Thank you, ladies,
Of
so
course.
much.
One of the questions that we always end with is, do you have a favorite quote or a motto or saying that you live by?
I guess the main thing, ever since I was 16 and had my first huge awakening, is everything happens for a reason. And so I don't believe in regrets. I don't believe in mistakes. I don't believe in having to redo anything. I truly live my life that everything happens for a reason. And that always allows us to go to those deeper, levels of why did this happen? If it happens for a reason, what is the reason behind this? What is the reason behind that table? Don't just take this reality at face value. It's time to dive deeper. And like you ladies said, it's time to come online. Like we need as many of us as possible. So I'm just blessed to be able to be here with the two of you, and I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. And it's been such a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Till next time.
Till next time.